James Bond 007 didn't quite make the list of the top-selling Atari 2600 games, and it just so happened to have come out the very same year as the video game crash of 1983 due to an oversaturated market. Supposedly, sales of video games, mainly Atari, dropped about 97% between 1983 and 1985. It was widely known that Atari had so many games printed, and since sales dropped dramatically, they buried about 700,000 cartridges in a New Mexico landfill, most notably E.T. the game. The entire video game industry was eventually saved in 1985 thanks to the release of the Nintendo Entertainment System and Famicom with Super Mario Bros. In regards to the James Bond film franchise, 1983's Octopussy cost $27.5 million to make and brought in over $183 million in the box office. While this is clearly a huge profit, Octopussy, to date, is the sixth least profitable Bond film adjusted for inflation. Roger Moore was starting to get pretty old to play the character, yet was still brought back for his final appearance in 1985's A View to a Kill at the age of 57 by the time of filming. As of recording this, A View to a Kill is the second least profitable Bond film of them all, behind only the Timothy Dalton era License to Kill in 1989. Yet, A View to a Kill still made a profit of $122 million in 1985. Ian Fleming's short story, From A View to a Kill, was featured in his anthology For Your Eyes Only. The film omitted the word from and adapted an entirely new story. A View to a Kill deals with a wealthy industrialist named Max Zorin and his henchwoman Mayday trying to wipe out Silicon Valley in order to create a monopoly in the microchip industry. It stars Roger Moore, Christopher Walken, Grace Jones, and Tanya Roberts, and had a San Francisco premiere on May 22, 1985. Naturally, a video game adaptation was on the horizon, and this became the first James Bond game to coincide with a film release of the same name, a trend that would continue on for most of the series. Two video game publishers created two very different versions of this adaptation, Mindscape and Domark. I couldn't find any exact release dates, but supposedly the Mindscape version came out first, and there really isn't too much to say about it. Mindscape was bought out in 1987 and went on to become involved in educational games, one notoriously being Mario is Missing, which was the first Mario Bros. Game to star Luigi in what would be a weird amalgamation of geographical and historical facts present in a Mario game. Also, Mavis Beacon teaches typing. Mindscape's version of A View to a Kill was released on DOS, Macintosh, and Apple II computers, and is a text-only adventure game, also called interactive fiction, a medium that was pretty popular back then for computer games. The text was written by future Bond novelist Raymond Benson, who went on to write 9 original Bond novels between 1997 and 2002, as well as the novelizations for Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. So, at least they did get an actual author to write out the story, which can help emphasize the immersion. These text-based games really are an acquired taste, and while not for me, I can see why they have their fans. You are literally reading the story play out while typing in words for the character to do without seeing anything happen in video form. It's more of an interactive book than a video game, but you're still playing it. You'll type in words like north, or up, or take calculator. The challenge comes in when you could go in the wrong direction, leading to your death and an eventual restart. You have to pay attention to detail because every action counts. If you pick something up or use a key on a door, you must also remember to use or drop said item, as well as open door or close door. James Bond 007, A View to a Kill, does somewhat follow the movie, although in a very truncated way. I really tried to start a game without looking anything up, and I eventually just went to a guide. At that point, there's really no point in playing, since you're just typing in words that it tells you in order to proceed, no skill involved whatsoever. But I still wanted to see the game for how it was. And here's the funny part. I must have missed a command at some point, because at the very end I went to draw my gun and shoot at Max Zorin to beat the game, and I apparently forgot to drop an item early on, and my hands were too full to be armed. I got all the way to the end, and I lost, even with a step-by-step guide. I felt at this point I got the gist of the game in about 20 seconds. And that's really it. Check it out if you happen to be a fan of text-based games and want to pretend to be a British spy. It's personally not for me. And it's the first implied sex scene in these games. The other version of the game is by the publisher Domark, which went on to eventually become Square Enix Europe, the developers of the Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Just Cause series. This is more of a straightforward mid-80s computer game and was released for the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, Amstrad CPC, MSX, and Oric 1 and Oric Atmos computers. The age of Bond on Atari had ended after only one entry and was now strictly on computers for the time being. The Domark version was released on June 7, 1985, only about 2 weeks after the film premiered. First, let's check out the Commodore 64 box. Your name is Bond, James Bond, the world's top secret agent, and now embarking on one of the most important missions of your career. Take part in 3 exciting arcade/adventure games taken straight from the film. These games are all entirely different from each other and are the Paris Chase, City Hall, and the Mine. Let's check it out. Firstly, I think it's important to note that the Commodore 64 had fairly long load times. I timed it out and just choosing the level to play took 1 minute and 10 seconds. So, we're given our objective for the Paris chase. Mayday has jumped from the Eiffel Tower and is now parachuting to her drop point. Follow her and get there first. Watch out for the police and roadblocks. So you're really given no context as to what is going on. There is a scene in the film in which Mayday, the henchwoman of the film, had just assassinated a French detective in the Eiffel Tower next to Bond, and Bond has to chase her. So, here's the first level. You must drive your vehicle around Paris and chase down the parachuted Mayday, represented by 3 black circles that fly around. The arrows on the road signify one-way streets, which can make navigating pretty difficult. You can go the wrong way, but it could alert police vehicles. Your controls are on a joystick, and turning results in immediate 90-degree turns. You're able to shoot bullets from the front of your car, as well as utilize a variety of acceleration speeds, as well as having a damage meter, as shown in the top half of the screen. While not necessarily executed in the best fashion, I can appreciate that they tried to implement some creative driving controls as opposed to the simple jump and dive from the first Atari game. It can be very clunky, and if you get caught in a dead-end alley or in front of another vehicle, you're pretty much done for. You have to do your best to take the least amount of damage while tracking down Mayday to arrive where she eventually lands as signified by an 8. It's very easy to lose her and you can end up lost very fast. Really, it's just an okay level. They tried something new with the split screen, although I never found myself looking at the top screen view. It's imperative to navigate on the bottom half. Mission 2 is City Hall, and it's basically an entirely different game from the first level. I can see why they refer to them as games on the back of the box. Your objective. Memo from M. Bond! I hope you succeeded in capturing Mayday. I haven't heard anything from you for days. If you did, your code will help. If you have no code, you'll just have to try harder. Don't fail me, James. I'm very fond of that girl. Memo from Q. Don't play around with that thing, James. You've got work to do. Remember to use gadgets I gave you carefully. Some of them are very dangerous. So that's enough of the driving levels. This is now the very first time you play as a physical representation of Bond in a video game. This time, the bottom screen shows the entire City Hall, in which some of it has been set fire by Max Zorin. It isn't specified, but you are to find Stacy Sutton, the Bond girl of the film, and escape the burning building with her. You can walk around in 4 directions and can pick up, use, and issue commands. The problem with this is since there's only one button on the joystick, you'll constantly be stopping with one press getting the item select screen up, then another issuing which command you want to use with that item. You'll have to search rooms and find keys and guns, etc. in order to progress through. Like with the first level, it isn't really executed very well. Just using a key on a door can take a bit of time. I eventually came to a point where I was able to navigate 6 rooms, and I couldn't figure out where to go from there. None of the keys or keycards worked on the 2 locked doors. But hey, it's something other than a driving level. Mission 3 is the Mine, and like before, plays very differently from the other 2 levels. The objective. Welcome 007, you are in a disused mine under Silicon Valley. The evil Max Zorin has planted a bomb, which you must defuse by using the code numbers you will find. You will also need the help of Mayday, who is trapped somewhere in the mine. So if you don't know the film, you would be very confused at this point. So far in the game, you've chased down Mayday in Paris, then escaped a burning building, and now you must find Mayday trapped in a mine to escape. Not a lot of this makes any sense. In the film, spoilers by the way, Max Zorin guns down a bunch of workers in the mine, and Mayday discovers that he left her for dead. She decides to enact revenge on him and uses a minecart to move the bomb away from the mine while sacrificing herself to put a stop to his plan. Bond then has a showdown with Zorin on his blimp above the Golden Gate Bridge. The level in the game is an absolute maze with random objects laying around everywhere. There is a chart to show what everything is, however. This level is more of a traditional platformer. You must move and jump over pits while finding the right objects to proceed and locate Mayday. Here's the thing, the controls are abysmal. Like I mentioned before, you're using a joystick with only one button. That button is used for both jumping as well as navigating the menu to use objects. So naturally, you must be moving in order to jump, or else Bond will stall and you'll discover that you're in the menu screen and you must hit the return button just to back out. This was easily my least favorite of the 3 levels, which is surprising because it's the one most resembling a platformer of the time. But Super Mario Bros. It is not. I got so lost and I had no idea what these items did, and the platforming segment is rough to master. I was torn on if I wanted to make sure I beat all of these games for the videos to help justify me being able to discuss every aspect of the game appropriately, but ultimately I decided that it wasn't necessary. I am still able to explain how each of these levels work, and I feel that it's up to you to decide if you want to try it out for yourself. So, there are both versions of A View to a Kill. To me, I had a bit more fun playing James Bond 007 than either of these games, but at the same time, they really did try some new things here at a time where gaming was still in a primitive state and just at the tail end of the video game crash. Super Mario Bros. Wasn't released quite yet, and these games sort of fell into obscurity. In a way, it's really 4 different styles of games to choose from here. If I had to rank them personally, I would say City Hall with the puzzle solving was the best, then the Paris Chase driving level, then the mine platforming, and finally the Mindscape text-based game. I do own a physical copy of the game, but I had never played it before, as it's difficult to locate a working Commodore 64 and a working player for the cassette tape cartridge. It's definitely a cool piece of Bond history, and this game featured a lot of firsts for the video game series. As far as the other versions of the game goes, well, let's just say I think the Commodore 64 version is the definitive version. I didn't play them myself, but they definitely have their own style, as you can see. The Bond franchise was reaching a low point in terms of financial success and fandom, and it was time for them to find a replacement for Roger Moore. Eventually, they went with Timothy Dalton to take over the role for his first installment of The Living Daylights in 1987. However, we have one Bond game that was released in 1986 before we get to that point. So thanks for checking out part 2. Please like and subscribe to keep in touch with future videos in this retrospective. James Bond will return in Goldfinger?